Thank you for coming for the continuation of day 2 of Higher Ground. I'm Kathleen Smith. Yes, it's Kathleen on Twitter. I'm the lead and creator of Higher Ground because we wanted to create a safe and valuable space for people in the community to learn about their careers, get advice, get feedback, be able to have beneficial conversations rather than being hounded by a recruiter. In the afternoons, we do career coaching and resume reviewing. Resume reviewing is done by recruiters that I trust and vet that are part of the community. And then career coaches who have had more than 10 to 15 years experience and have had a varied career so that we know that they can provide you advice as far as different challenges that you've had or if you want to switch around from one industry to the next. I'm really excited to have Phil with us this morning. I've always seen him presenting at other conferences, and I finally got up enough, gumption to ask him to submit a talk because I can't pick. I have to just ask people to submit. Just so you know, we are recording this, so Phil's going to have to stay really close to the mic. But also, you don't need to take screenshots of what he's going to present because you can just go back and watch it on YouTube later. So with that, Phil, thanks for coming and joining us here.
Thanks for having me. Thanks everyone for joining today, and thanks to Kathleen for recommending me submit a talk here. So this is an awesome village for me because one of the things I love doing is helping other people. A few years ago, I've always been a competitive person. I used to compete in powerlifting, and I worked in a jewelry store before selling jewelry, and I always wanted to sell the most. Whenever I was 15, I got shot, and the bullet pumped through my heart, and I actually almost died from it. But the thing I was worried about when I was laying on the ground before the ambulance got there is that my 250-pound bench press would be passed up by my classmates. So I've always been super competitive. And, in the industry, you always try to be competitive too. And when you get to be almost 60 years old, it's hard to keep up with the younger people. It's easier to stay up to 3, 5 a.m. in the morning learning. Whereas you get older, it gets more difficult. You need more sleep to recuperate. And one of the things I started thinking about is that to play towards my strengths is I was a lot better mentor and coach than I was a pen tester, although I did well as pen testing, but I'm patient. I like helping people. I'm a pretty decent listener, so that's what drew me to that area. So it's an honor to be here, and this is actually the perfect village for me to be speaking at. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Phillip Wylie. I have my CISSP, OSCP, and SANS Web App Pen Testing certifications. So my current role is Manager of Tech Evangelism and Enablement at Scicognito. So speaking is part of my job, doing webinars, podcasts, going to conferences, as well as education internally, because our product does some of the things that pen testing does and security assessments do, but to be able to explain to our salespeople how those items work. So it was a good fit for me. So I've been in offensive security for a little over 10 years, a total of 18 and a half years in cybersecurity. Prior to that, I was a sysadmin for a little over 6 years. And so I used to teach ethical hacking and web app pen testing at Dallas College. And really that's what really got me started in speaking at conferences, because my book, The Pen Tester Blueprint, came from a class lecture which got turned into a conference talk and eventually a book. So I also run a couple different groups, the Pwn School Project and DEF CON 940 in Denton, Texas. I'm the concept creator and co-author of the Pen Tester Blueprint, and I host a podcast called the Hacker Factory podcast on ITSP Magazine. So if you're interested in hearing some inspiring stories and advice from others, it's a good platform. We've had Dave Kennedy, Alyssa Knight, but the interesting thing is the people just got into the industry. Those are the ones that usually interest people the most. And so I like to share this slide of how I got into pen testing. Because when I graduated high school in 1984, I was a powerlifter, and just, your stereotypical, meathead powerlifter, all bronze, no brains. And I didn't think I'd ever be, using my mind for a living. So I like to share this because some people have imposter syndrome or lack of confidence and don't think they can do it. And you can. If I went from being a pro wrestler to being a pen tester, you can do it too. If you're passionate about it and want to learn, that's great. Some people are gifted and they learn it well, but really the people that have the passion, the desire, and the persistence, they'll outperform the people that are gifted because they're putting in the time. They like what they're doing. So I started out as a pro wrestler, needed a more stable career. I'd worked putting up fences, worked in retail sales, was a bouncer in a nightclub, did all sorts of jobs back then, physical security, and other things I really liked. And I really couldn't keep a job or work at a place long because I didn't enjoy what I was doing. I was working at a jewelry store, and the family that owned the jewelry store, they were starting a new chain, and they wanted me to be an assistant manager there, but the manager of the store had someone else he liked better. And I kind of learned at that point, I got to get some skills, and it's got to be based on something. Although you get in the industry, there can be some politics. But when you're working retail sales and working in restaurants, a lot of times your promotions and stuff are based on whether the manager likes you and so forth. So I went to a trade school and learned AutoCAD. Did that for a while, and before that I had no computer experience, and I found I had more of a knack for the computer side of things. So I taught myself how to build computers, got Novell Network certified, and then got my first job contracting for a company doing server and workstation rollouts. So during that sysadmin period of my career, I found out about information security. So I moved into the security team at the mortgage company I worked for, started out doing network security, also some security assessments and risk assessments. And then we had a new CISO come into the company, and he set up an AppSec team. He had more of a modern view of the way companies were doing things. So I got to move over to the AppSec team, and that's where I found out about pen testing. I was managing third-party pen tests that we'd have consultants come in and do, as well as doing some vulnerability scanning. Got to go to some vendor demos of WebInspect, the web application vulnerability scanner, and it really got me interested. And so in 2012, I got laid off, and I went to work as a pen tester. And one of the things that helped me, and advice I like to share, is if you don't have all the experience, everything needed, still apply, because what got me the job was I was talking to the hiring manager. I'd run vulnerability scanners. I worked in security. I had a sysadmin background. I had some base level knowledge. I didn't have the hacking piece. I'd never performed a pen test, but he saw that I had a home lab, and I was teaching myself. I taught myself how to do web design. I hosted a web server at home with my clients' websites, set up SendMail for my mail transfer agent, and hosted my own DNS. So I got all this experience. So he saw that I like to build things and learn on my own, and so that helped me get the job, because I really wasn't qualified. The guy took a risk on me, and when I got into that, I had to learn how to do pen testing. So I took the OSCP, where I gained my hacking skills. So if you want to do this, apply for it. I've had students that come in really ambitious the first day of class, saying, "Yeah, I want to be a good pen tester as you, but I want to do it in a shorter period of time." So yeah, you put in the more time and effort you put in there, you can get in there as quick as you want to. Second week into the class, he comes up and says, "Hey, do I have to read the textbook if I want to be a pen tester?" So I said, "Well, if you need to spend more time in the labs, learn the hands-on piece, because that's important." And then he turned around, and at the end of the semester, he got an internship as a pen tester. And he was like the last one in the class that I thought would get it, but just from his motivation and passion, he was able to get the job. So don't let thinking you don't have all the skills, let it pass you by on a job, because you apply so many times, and maybe you apply that one time the first time without the skills. Maybe you wait 5 or 6 years, and unless you're applying, you're not going to get the job. So I highly recommend doing that. There's so many jobs out there needed, and sometimes your background kind of resonates with that hiring manager. So if you're a sysadmin or you worked on help desk, they can kind of relate, and sometimes that'll help you get fired. Get hired, not fired. That's a different talk. Yeah. So just kind of to cover some basics here. So what is pen testing? So pen testing is assessing security from an adversarial perspective, the same way a threat actor would use, using the same tools and techniques that they would use. And pen testing is also the shorter version of penetration tester. And it's also known as ethical hacking. And sometimes it's easier to explain people ethical hacking, although you will tell some people sometimes, "I'm an ethical hacker," and they'll ask you, "Is there really such a thing as ethical hacker?" They don't realize that you can do that. I mean, it's like having lock picking skills. You can do that for good or bad, but pen testing or hacking seems to get kind of a bad rap. So as far as getting the experience, you need the knowledge, but you need the experience with the tools. So taking some different online courses like TryHackMe, the Hack the Box, different CTFs and stuff, learning how to use the vulnerability scanners like the OSCP certification, I don't know if they've updated that where you can use vulnerability scanners, but they don't let you. But in real world, you're using vulnerability scanners. So knowing how to use those tools. So using vulnerability scanners, you can download a 16 IP version of Nessus, which is widely used in pen testing. You can download that and you can scan 16 IP addresses. So you could do pen tests for small companies in your home lab environment, and 16 IPs is a pretty good amount of IPs to learn how to use Nessus. So get through there and get that experience with that. And also learn the different pen testing Linux distributions like Kali Linux and Parrot OS. And you can even build your own using Ubuntu and install the tools. But one of the things I'll say is when you're using one of these pre-built distros, it's easier to install the tools because sometimes they do some tweaks to get the tools to work. So if you're trying to install something on Ubuntu, there may be some all sorts of missing Python type items in there like PIP add-ons to Python to be able to install with that you have to do all that. So sometimes it's easier and faster to use Kali and Parrot. And then pen testing tools, Nmap is one of the most widely used tools you'll use as a pen tester because there's even Nmap scripting engine scripts that will perform vulnerability scanning. Whenever I perform a pen test, the first tool I use to verify findings is Nmap because there's different Nmap scripting engines scripts that you can go through there and validate certain findings. So if you go through a search for that, you can find that. So you need to, when you're performing a pen test, you do vulnerability scanning, use other tools to detect vulnerabilities, but you have to validate those findings. And so that's where Nmap comes into play. And you can also do manual pen testing with Nmap. So there's like a vuln script that's just VULN that you can use in your Nmap scripting engine syntax when you run your Nmap scans, you can find some of these vulnerabilities. And so understanding how to use Nmap is very important. And then Metasploit is a very popular exploit tool. They have a free version, whereas a lot of the other exploitation tools like Core Impact and some of those other tools, they don't have a free version. So Metasploit is widely used, and you can do pretty much everything with that you can with Metasploit Professional. When I worked in organizations where we had Metasploit Pro, I would stick with Metasploit Framework since I was used to the command line. So understanding how to use those tools, you can download Metasploitable. There's several different versions of that. Metasploitable 2 and 3 are some of the best versions, but the good thing about Metasploitable, they created those VMs originally so you could test Metasploit against it. And some companies will do that also for their vulnerability scanners. They'll either have a vulnerable website online or vulnerable VMs you can download to practice using their tool. And the Metasploitable VMs, they give you enough vulnerabilities that are exploitable that would be equal to numerous, several different VMs on your system that are vulnerable. So it takes up less disk space, and there are exploitable items on there that you can use, and you can find some walkthroughs to learn how to exploit those vulnerabilities. And there's a lot of other different tools within Kali Linux that are very helpful. So as far as commercial tools, just to kind of learn this on your own, you got Burp Suite Community. It doesn't do some of the things, but you got OWASP Zap, so you can use that. So there's a lot of functionality you can get out of these free tools that you don't have to have the paid tool to learn those skills to get into the industry. And so also learning the web app pen testing tools like Burp Suite, OWASP Zap, and web application vulnerability scanners. And one of the things too is I really focus on if you're wanting to get into pen testing is really work on the web app pen testing stuff because there's bug bounties out there. That's an easier way to get real world experience. And with that experience, it can help you get a pen testing job because you're able to describe how you found vulnerabilities, even exploit them during an interview. Back in 2020, I was looking for a new pen testing job, and I interviewed with a very famous boutique pen testing firm, and the hiring manager was telling me that we have an easy time finding web app pen testers because people are participating in bug bounties. They're able to get that experience. There's not that much opportunity when it comes to network pen testing that you're able to find these opportunities. Some bug bounties will have that, but you don't see that as often. They usually have the things that are, that you can test from the internet, so that makes it easier for them to test. So understanding that web app pen testing piece. So the pen testing skills, it's good to understand some networking. You don't have to be a CCNA, but to be able to set up your IP information within your pen testing distribution. If it's an environment that doesn't have DHCP, be able to know how to statically assign or an IP address to your system, be able to understand routing and subnetting enough so if you see an environment, you're going to understand different subnets, whether you're able to test from that VLAN or move to others. So you don't have to be a guru in networking, but you need to know some of it. And then operating systems, you want to understand operating systems like at a sysadmin level, because if you get a shell to a system, if you know Linux, you're able to do things on that system to shut down services, do further testing. If you understand Windows and know the right commands, you may be able to shut down a firewall. So understanding that from a sysadmin level works out great. And one of the things I'm saying now, if you're just getting started, you don't have that experience, don't let it overwhelm you and say, I'm not going to be able to learn how to pen test. I have all this stuff to learn. Learn it in parallel. As you're learning Windows, how to install it, learn how to secure it. At the same time, learn how to exploit Windows as you're going along. So you don't have to wait and get through all this and then start the hacking piece. Kind of do it in parallel as you're going along. So understanding the hacking and pen testing piece, that's where I was at when I got my first pen testing job. So platforms like Hack the Box and Try Hack Me are really good. I really like Try Hack Me because it's very beginner friendly. They've got some basic level stuff that you can go in there and learn, and it advances and you gain more advanced skills as you go along, but at least it starts you out at easier level. Some platforms like Offensive Security, when they came out, they were more geared towards helping, providing certifications for people that were pen testing. So you had to be at a certain level before you do that, or there was a lot of study to prepare for that. And so some of these, they've gotten better with some of their prerequisite training materials for the OSCP, but things like Try Hack Me is very cheap, and they've got some free room, so that's a good place to get those hacking skills. And reverse engineering is a good skill to have. If you find like an Android APK file on a network while you're doing a pen test, it may have some credentials that are contained in there, hard-coded credentials. So maybe they give out the APK, you're able to authenticate, and you gain access to the system. So look for those hard-coded credentials, any kind of database information, how to connect to databases. And Java files, Java jar files could be reverse engineered, defined default credentials, database information, other things helpful on a pen test. So the reverse engineering is not as complicated as it sounds. Understanding little basics of coding, just looking, even viewing the source of a web page, looking for maybe some hard-coded credentials, database connection information. Sometimes in the HTML hidden fields, sometimes there's good information there that you can find. Coding and scripting can be, this is kind of not a required to get started, but as you advance your career, you may want to do that, because if you're able to write your own tools and scripts, once you get to that advanced level, it's going to help you progress in your career. But when you're starting out, you don't have to do it. I've seen a lot of people that they want to become a pen tester, but they're going to learn Python first. Now start learning, and you can learn Python along the way. And then also like mobile and device hardware, if you're someone that really understands that may be a place for you to get into. But understanding mobile devices, especially how some of the applications work, because the applications for mobile devices, iOS and Android, need to be pen tested, and some bug bounties actually include those as well. And one of the things is there's less talent in the mobile testing space, because a lot of things were kind of slow for people that are already in the field, that maybe they were started out pen testing and they totally didn't train on cloud or some of these other devices. Mobile testing, they have to go back and do it later. So sometimes these newer technologies that are not so new now, maybe like cloud and mobile, learn that, because a lot of the experienced professionals don't have skills in that area. I mean, I've worked on 15 people pen testing teams at a bank, and there was only like maybe 2 or 3 of us, and you have to do mobile pen testing. And sometimes it's not always, that's up to you to learn on your own, and sometimes you don't get the opportunities to do that in organizations. But so if you're really trying to break in, learn that. Some of the upcoming technologies or some things that are really hot now is API, knowing how to API pen test, because that's another one that there's not as many skills at that, as well as even getting into some of the Web3 stuff, some of the blockchain pen testing and stuff. Bo Bullock from Black Hills, he's got some information out there on be able to pen test blockchain. So as we move towards that, understanding those technologies and kind of start learning that. If you're just starting out, you learn how to pen test blockchain, 90%, I'd say probably 95% of the pen testers out there don't know how to do that. So that could be your step to get into pen testing. And also some of those more complex areas like that can be a lot more interesting to learn as well. And so getting the pen testing experience, so bug bounties or crowdsourced pen testing, so like BugCrowd, Synac, HackerOne, Integrity are really good ones to start out with. I heard Integrity is probably one of the better platforms because there's not as many people on it. Get out there and get the experience. If you're not finding bugs that you actually can write up that you get credit for, if you find duplicates, you're still finding vulnerabilities. Think about, you're able to go through a job interview and you're able to tell the hiring manager how you found cross-site scripting or SQL injection during these vulnerabilities. So that's actual real world experience. So that's something that you can put on your resume. And so pen testing as a service is a little different. What they do with pen testing as a service, Cobalt offers that. Synac, BugCrowd, and HackerOne, I believe, added that. And so what they do is, some of these, I think Synac may pay a little bit better, but like Cobalt, you get $1,500 to perform a pen test. So whether you find bugs or not, you're getting paid. And this is real world pen testing experience. You get that experience, you do that for 6 months to a year, then you go apply for a full-time pen testing job and you'll make a lot more money. $1,500 a week is not much as a pen tester, but once you get those skills, it's easy to make 6 figures working as a pen tester, as an internal resource. But this is a way to get experience because, back years ago, you didn't have these opportunities to get that experience. You just had to get lucky like I did and get hired by someone willing to give you a chance. So these are good ways to get experience. Pro bono pen testing, so any nonprofits or religious organizations, you could perform free pen tests for them. And even not only pro bono, you can do low cost pen testing. Maybe you're making a little bit of money, they can't afford to pay someone like Black Hills or Trusted Sec to do a pen test. If you charge I've seen people that were doing a pen test for a nonprofit that was charging $1,000 for in 1 week. That's very fair compared to what a consulting company is going to charge. And so common vulnerabilities and exposures, CVEs, getting CVE numbers on your resume is good because there's a lot of pen testers out there that don't have CVEs. I don't have any CVEs. If I could have figured out if I would have been in the right place to record my iPhone screen, I was able to find a bypass one time back when Apple was still on the touch screen without using the home button to get in. I was able to do it. And Apple said, yeah, you need to record it with a camera or something. And every time I'd be at a stoplight, it would come up, a pop-up would show up. I'd go touch it and it would open up, and I'm away from home. I couldn't get a camera, so I was never to get it. But regardless, that was like the only closest I'd come to getting CVE. But there's a lot of people that don't have them because they had certifications they got in. So CVE is a big thing. And Joe Helly, if you heard of Joe Helly, he goes by the mayor. He started playing around with finding CVEs, and he's able to find a lot of them. And so if you look on Medium, he has an article called How I Was Bored One Night and Found 2 CVEs. And what he recommends is downloading some of this free and open source hotel booking software, just different free softwares, download it in your environment, install it, and find the bugs, and then write it up. You get CVEs on there. That's going to go a long ways towards helping you get the job. Some cases, some hiring managers would hire someone for CVEs over they would like an OSCP or some other certification, because this is showing you something you did in real world opposed to an environment used for testing your security skills. And one of the things too, when mentioning the bug bounties and stuff, once you get those skills, sign up for Cobalt. Go on there, and what they do is they'll give you an assessment. They give you like a vulnerable VM or a vulnerable environment or application that you have to perform a pen test against. And if you do good enough, you're going to get recruited. So if you've got the skills to do that, so what you're gaining through all your learning, you'll be able to sign up and get on with them. And like I said, they're paying $1,500 per pen test for like 35 hours of work. And that's pretty decent side money. And then once you get the experience, you can move on to full time. And so further information on how to get the experience, the simulated experience, we were talking about bug bounties, real world experience. So CTFs are still good ways to get experience. If you're in college, National Cyber League is like a national competition. It's a CTF, and they take the rosters of people and rankings, and employers will ask for that information, hire people for that database. If you're in a college that does the red team, blue team games, the CCDC, competing in those, hiring managers will hire from that. So Hack the Box, try Hack Me, getting experience in those environments. If you've got a really good ranking somewhere on one of those platforms, that's good to have. And then a home lab using vulnerable VMs. I used to really stress that a lot, but with all these other online platforms, I think that's probably a better way to go, because some of the vulnerable applications you find online are more real world. Juice Shop is another good one. You can the Heroku cloud service, you can go on Heroku and install your own JuShop instance and test across the internet there. So using these CTFs, Try Hack Me and Hack the Box are really great ways to get experience. Try Hack Me and Hack the Box also has a lot of great education material. Hack the Box kind of took a page from what Try Hack Me was doing and started their academy. So there's a really good way to learn there in those environments. Home labs are good, but there's all this stuff built that you don't have to spend the time building your home labs. At one time, that was really pretty much your only option, but now with those resources, you're able to do that. And so how to showcase that experience. So when you're doing these Hack the Box rooms and Try Hack Me and all this and CTFs, write those up. Write an article on Medium. As long as it's like Hack the Box, you're able to disclose and do write-ups. There may be some vulnerable VMs, they don't want that disclosed, but you can even do this privately. So you could have a GitHub account or Medium or what are the blog platform, and you can do like write-ups on the vulnerabilities you found. Even if you're doing bug bounties, write up some of the findings. You may want to redact it to make sure they don't see the customer information, but write these up and you can actually prove. It goes a long way of proving you know what you're doing and that you can communicate that. And communication skills sometimes are lacking. You take some of the best hackers and they're not really good at writing. We're living in a world where you're sending text messages, you're sending acronyms, not completing full sentences. So those communication skills are great. So if you're able to go on Medium and write these up, even do like YouTube videos on these walkthroughs in these rooms. There's been a lot of people that have built their careers as content creators. You look at the cyber mentor, Heath Adams, he was learning and did a lot of his education to teach himself, made all these videos, and now he's got a pen testing company, been working as a pen tester, got all these certifications, offering certifications, but he started out as a content creator. And now it's such a great environment for that. There's a lot of other people. I don't know if any of you know who Michael Padrick or Fearless from InfoSec Twitter. He networked in the industry, and that's how he got in, and also finding CVEs that helped him get a job. And so GitHub to display scripts. So if you're writing scripts, so if you're creating some automation for some of these different platforms you're working on, put those scripts in that GitHub. So that way it goes to show you're doing things. Because you can go in some place, you say you're doing all this stuff, but if you can prove it, it's going to go a long way for helping you in your efforts to get a job. And so you see a lot of people that are experienced professionals with the GitHub out there. If writing is your thing, you can do write-ups or on different CTFs. Even your overall review of like the SANS challenge that they do each December. Write that stuff up. People see that and they'll find you, because social media, YouTube, all those platforms, the more people know who you are, the easier you can find a job. For me now, whenever I got started out, when I got started in security, there wasn't Twitter. LinkedIn has started out, but now if you get on social media, you go to conferences and network with folks, it's able to get you in there. And so creating videos and writing blog posts is a really good way to get experience and showcase your talents. And with the nice thing about Medium as a platform, people that are interested in the same subject as you will find your write-ups and stuff. And another prime example of someone that really took off too is Rana Khalil. If you've seen any of her OSCP write-ups and videos and stuff, she also does a lot of good content for Port Swigger's Web Application Security Academy. She does write-ups and videos on that. And so that really got her a lot of exposure. And those people can go anywhere and get a job anytime. So you may not have the experience yet, but if you can demo that on a display, on a video. I've seen people do talks at conferences and local meetups. I saw a recent college grad at one of our local DEF CON groups did a talk on malware analysis. A hiring manager from Citi was in the audience and asked for his resume. He already saw his technical skills through his presentation. So just getting out there, if it's even on a smaller platform and meetups, or either going online through social media, those are really great ways to get that exposure out there and display what you're learning. And on your resume, talk about the different things you're doing, CTFs, the different platforms you're on, Try Hack Me and Hack the Box. Talk about the different rooms that you've completed, and just you can list this under your training, under education, and you can put the different skills on there. And if you're wanting to be a pen tester and you're looking for that job and you're studying and training for that, on your LinkedIn profile, put aspiring pen tester, because you're going through learning. The same way someone is going to college to get a degree, people know they're studying for that, so let people know that. And here is my connection information, so feel free to reach out to me. And also, if you go to my YouTube channel, I have a whole semester's worth of my pen testing lectures. And the book was based on the Pen Test Plus, but in those videos, I do some hacking demos as well as share my real world pen testing experience. When I started the class, we were using Georgia Weidman's book as the textbook, but then the Pen Test Plus came out that year, and I wanted to be able to offer my students a way to get a certification, so we moved over to Pen Test Plus. So like I said, that lectures, if you go in there, there's a playlist on there with all those lectures for the Pen Test Plus. I just talked to someone recently that had passed the Pen Test Plus certification, and they said that the videos actually helped them in their certification process. And so that concludes my presentation, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
And if you ask questions, if I can...
Thank you.
And for our audience at home, if someone asks a question, if you could just repeat
Sure.
the question before you answer it, that's
Yes.
great. So here's the pen test god. Ask a question.
I may not be the guy, but I'm the person. I help people get in the industry because it's interesting. I have my domain name is thehackermaker.com, so I really like helping people get into the industry. So I'm definitely good at helping people get started. So did you have a question? Questions? And if you can't think of it now, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter or LinkedIn. I'm always monitoring my DMs and happy to answer your question. You may get out of here, hear something later on, and come up with a question, but feel free. And feel free to connect either way. I'm always happy to connect with people. One of my favorite things that come to these conferences is getting to meet my friends in person and meet new people. Yes? Yeah.
What?
Or do you want me to mic or?
No, you just ask a question and he'll repeat it. Sorry.
That's a,
We're limited on
When you're
mics.
switching careers, what do you find to be most challenging?
most challenging, and I'd say probably one of the most challenging pieces was when I was first getting into cybersecurity. Once I had that base level experience, and one of the things too, if you're working in other areas of security, it's not going to be difficult to move into other areas of security. But first getting into security, because I had my CISSP, I had some of the domains. I'd worked in physical security. I used to help work for a company doing CAD that designed prison systems, security systems. So I had that, but just getting your foot in the door. And sometimes if you're working for a company, you're in IT or maybe in other areas of the company, try to move into those different groups. Get to know the people in the pen test team or the security team that you want to move into. You know, go out there and network with those folks. Sometimes they may let you shadow them. Some companies have programs where they'll let people shadow other people in IT or security, but that's the more difficult thing. And so the question was, someone asked, what was the most difficult thing getting to change careers?
And one thing to realize in changing careers, conferences like this are really excellent for that, because especially if you participate in any of the CTFs or any of the pros versus Joes, being able to network with the people that you're competing against or that you're collaborating with, really, you are learning that you can work with those people, and then you find out where they work or that they can recommend you. Because I can tell you, more than 85% of jobs are filled through referrals. So network at an event. If you followed someone on Twitter and you finally get to meet them, building these relationships in the community is not just one tweet, one DM, one Slack message. It is a layering, and meeting people, following them, engaging on Twitter, engaging in LinkedIn in a respectful manner is a really great way to build your connections in another industry. Question?
Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
So you said that you mentor people, right?
Yes.
What's the best medium to reach out to?
Probably LinkedIn. Yeah, someone asked what was the best medium to reach out to me for mentoring, and I said LinkedIn. So yeah, I do that a lot. And what I do in a lot of cases, and one of the things I recommend too, if you're looking for mentors, you don't have to have one specific person to take care of all of it. Find several people you can go to, because people have different experiences and can help you out. So one of the things I do is I never turn away people I mentor, but what I'll do in a lot of cases, I'm able to provide someone with enough information, they go off and study and learn, and then they come back later on when they have other questions. So yeah, if anyone needs someone to mentor, advice, a lot of times I'll message through DMs, or we can set up a Zoom call. I'll be happy to mentor people and give you advice. Because one of the things, I get a lot of people coming to me wanting, because from when I was teaching, people always came to me looking for entry-level pen testers. And I not only recommend my students, other people I knew, if I knew their skills, knew they had to do certain things, I'd recommend them. And I love to refer people. Actually, at my former company, I'd referred 7 people while I worked there. 7 people. You're welcome.
So in having a mentor, realize there are 2 things. One, a mentor-mentee relationship. This I should stand closer here. Mentor-mentee relationship is a 2-way responsibility and relationship. Don't just ask someone, can you mentor me? Have 3 specific things that you want to get from that person and 3 things that you're going to be able to provide them back. It is not all take, it is give and take. Phil's not the only one on this stage that's over 60. And I can tell you when I was starting my career, there were no women in an executive position. So there is something called virtual or ghosting mentoring. I just found people on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on social media that I really liked who they were professionally and personally integrity, and I just sort of stalked them. You know,
that's how we connected through Twitter.
That's how we connected. We stalked each other. So realize that you can stalk someone in a respectful way, follow what they write, read what they post, engage with them a little bit. It was really sort of gratifying to me. I work in the government contracting space, and one of the people that I was stalking became the first female CIO for the government, for GSA. And I went to her and I thanked her for being my, sort of mentor. And she turned around and said, well, you've been mine. So it was one of those wonderful moments. So another question.
Yes.
Way in the back, Josh.
So I get this question asked to a recruiter all the time. I'm curious to hear your take on it. This is a lot of really great advice. Now let's say someone does all these things to build up their experience. How do they get past an HR recruiter who may not understand all the what all this means and pass it into a hiring manager that this does make sense?
Yes, the question was how, if you go through all these steps to learn this, how do you get past HR to be able to get into hiring managers? And so one of the things I say there is your networking is really going to be helpful. Going to your different meetup groups, because and the thing is, a lot of people refer to it as the HR firewall, because sometimes they don't understand. You could have some certification that's just as good, but they don't understand that they got a written up job description and they're fitting to that. So if you know someone in the company, I hear a lot of people sometimes if they see someone they're connected on LinkedIn, maybe they don't know them that well, maybe they'll message them and say, hey, I'm interested in a job in your company. Could you pass my resume on? A lot of cases people will do that. And so that's the biggest thing is directly connecting with people. A prime example here is I worked for US Bank and I got the job there, but around the same time I applied for a job at Bank of America, kind of same type of company, same type of experience and so forth. I applied online. I didn't hear from them until a year later. I knew someone, I got referred at US Bank and I got a job offer, and it was like a very minimal process. I got the interview, 2 interviews, and I got the job. Otherwise, like US, if I'd applied online, it might have been the same scenario, because a lot of times HR, unless you find someone like Kathleen, as far as recruiters, some recruiters don't understand that space. So the more people you can get to refer you, get to know those people and do that. And sometimes, like even for me, if you're looking for a job, I will share people's profiles, say, hey, Jason's looking for a job. He's looking for a pen tester role, entry-level pen tester role. This is his experience. Tag them in it, and that way they get the response and the value of my connections to help them get the job. But yeah, just make sure the networking piece is very important. I don't even really have to go through recruiters anymore, just because my networking with people. And one of the things I have to say too, go past just the connecting with someone. Don't just connect and forget about it. Maintain those relationships. Because I'm at conferences, I'll see people that run conferences. They're like at Texas Cyber Summit. I'd run into Sciatic Nerd that runs BSides San Antonio. We would talk, and I would get asked to do a workshop, or other opportunities would come up because I was talking to someone that runs HUSECCon. So when you see those people, make sure to talk to them periodically. Just say hi, and sometimes meet people for coffee when they're in town. Like we've met up before. So yeah, just constantly connect and just keep those relationships going, because people will forget about you after a while, but if you maintain those relationships, opportunities just constantly keep coming.
Any other questions? Oh, Matthew.
So have you had experience building purple teams
Yes, the question was if I had experience with purple teaming and balancing the red team with the incident response. So really the thing is you have to really make sure that you're communicating, and this is a group effort. The one company I work for where we were doing purple teaming, it was a really good process because the defenders, incident response were really interested in seeing in these exercises, because one of the best ways to mature your organization, because you can perform pen test vulnerability scans and go through those iterations and remediate, and you can't constantly be pen testing. Normally you don't have the resources, but if you're able to run purple teaming, you're able to take tools out of the hands of attackers like Mimikatz, different PowerShell scripts, risky PowerShell hygiene in the environment. So the experience I had was at a large global consumer company. It was a really good experience. I would say probably the IR folks and defenders were more interested in it than the red team. And there's some really good scripts out there, like Atomic Red Team has their, or Canary has the Atomic Red Team scripts. And some of those are scripts that you can run. They don't have payloads. So like you can run Mimikatz and it doesn't have a payload. It just has that signature. So you can cut down the risk in your environment. And that's good too if you're wanting to bring in junior level pen testers or red teamers, to let them use those tools safely in that environment. Thanks for the question.
Question way in the back. You're going to have to yell because we've got the fans up here.
So I work at a small startup, and I do both the QA at the end of the sprint, but it's mostly on the UI UX side. I was wondering if you had any advice on how to get more into pen testing for web apps, particularly like testing the new features added.
Okay. Yeah, someone said they had QA experience on the UA or UI UX side, and they was wondering how to get, they work in the different sprints for the software development lifecycle and how to get pen test experience. I would say if you haven't familiarized yourself with like the OWASP top 10 and use like the OWASP testing guide, start learning web app pen testing, because one of the things too, organizations will a lot of times have their AppSec folks or their DevSecOps will be performing DAST, they're scanning and static code analysis through that process, but sometimes they're running pen testing. So if you're able to learn pen testing, there may be an organization in your company that does the pen testing after you go through that process. But if you're able to do some testing, maybe even learn how to retest those items after a pen test. If you can go back and retest those things to see if they're vulnerable, to make sure you're remediated before they go back to the pen test team to retest, that's a way for you to get those skills. And working in your area, I've known several people that work in QA that have moved into application security or web app pen testing. So learn those skills. And Port Swigger's Web Application Security Academy is a great place to learn. It's all free content, and they show you how to use Burp Suite, which is a very popular industry tool that's good to use. So I would start with that resource and OWASP Top 10, OWASP Testing Guide. Kind of learn those, and once people know you can do that, they're going to get you to test it, because maybe they need it retested right now, but the pen test team's not available for a couple weeks or a month. You're able to test right away, so that's a good way to get in there. And once they see that, if they need someone in that group, they may recruit you over. So, good question.
Any other questions? Let's give it up for Phil.
Thank you.